What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics show. We are live here on Dsm Media's Philadelphia YouTube and Twitter channels. First and foremost, guys, if you are new to the channel, if you are watching on Twitter, we obviously appreciate you, but we still cannot see your comments. So do yourself a favor, do us a favor, and make sure you lock in and subscribe to the YouTube channel specifically. It is the best way to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here on the screen with us. I'm one half of your host today, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. The Sixers continue to add and fill out this roster, signing former Heat forward Caleb Martin to a multi-year deal. Woj saying it's a 4-year, $32 million deal, fully guaranteed. That can get up to $40 million in bonuses and stuff like that this season. But big addition for the Sixers. We're going to talk about why it's a huge addition for them and all the different things they can do with this lineup and what they can do with the rest of the roster. The Phillies lose 2 out of 3. The injured Phillies, I should say, lose 2 out of 3 on the road to the Atlanta Braves. The world is not burning down. That's good to see on social media from fellow Philly fans. We'll talk about that. They break a franchise record with most all-star appearances in 1 year. They have 7 guys representing the National League this year, Scotty. And a question for you guys, right? I mentioned the Caleb Martin edition. We know everything else. Paul George is the big splash. Kelly Oubre comes back. Andre Drummond returns. Eric Gordon, so on and so forth. Is this the best Sixers offseason ever in our generation for the last 30 years? Like, where does it rank in terms of off seasons for the Sixers? I know we haven't played a game yet, but it's starting out beautifully. And speaking of beautiful, yes, sir, I'm going to hint, I'm going to tease just as much as the Sixers are. Bring them back this year. Scott, you actually tweeted it. You tweeted something out. Maybe not these jerseys specifically, but black unis. This squad, Paul George, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, Caleb Martin, so on and so forth. This squad in a jersey like this or this one this season will do damage, and the Sixers would be absolute idiots not to capitalize off of this. Look what Kelly
exactly. You're going to make so much money.
Kelly Green's another level, right? I'm not comparing this to Kelly Green and the Eagles, but this will sell out like that. So we got a lot to get into. The Olympics, Joel Embiid, man, I can just continue to lay out all Well, what's going on, brother? I hope you had a happy 4th and the weekend.
Oh, yeah, man. You can see I don't know if you can tell, my face is like just completely like shedding or whatever you want to call it, peeling. Completely sunburnt from the shore this weekend, completely hungover from the weekend as well. But great morning because I got a lot of energy for what we're about to talk about because there's a lot going on. And your point on the black jerseys, I completely agree, man. Like I said that I sent the tweet before I actually saw like the Maxey.
It was like the day
introduction and all of that. It was just like a Caleb Martin video. I think I retweeted on it. I'm just looking at Caleb Martin. I'm like, this dude's a fucking dog.
Yeah.
Like we brought in a bunch of dogs this offseason, and you got to dress them right, man. And to that point, like we talked about it before the show, the Sixers are starting to show that they're not tone deaf.
Yeah.
So just go with the classic, man. Like, you're going to make a bunch of money off of it. It's going to look so tough. You can even make little alterations to it to make it look even better and still distinct in its own way. But keep it like it was for the most part, similar to the Kelly Green, like you said. And I think this is just pointing all in the right direction for the Sixers. Like you said, could this be like the best offseason the Sixers have ever had? Because it feels like an offseason where they are righting their wrongs. And I'm going to sing the tunes of Daryl Morey to the sky heavens because this man has come in. We're getting to this point now where we have to talk about how great Daryl Morey is. Like, not just doing the obvious things, like going out and signing Paul George to a max. Don't get me wrong, that's an accomplishment. It's a great one to do because we haven't had a free agent signing like that in I don't even know how long, right? Like Al Horford does not even compare to that, period.
Oh my God.
So like when you look at it from that standpoint, it is still a great accomplishment, but we also could see that coming in a sense. Caleb Martin's out of left field, man. Like you get a role player like that at that price. The reported offer that the Miami Heat gave to him and he denied that, came over here. I don't know if that's an agent mess up or what, but he doubled down and signed like a 3 or 4 year deal. So it's like he's not even looking for like a prove it year. You know what I mean? There's no prove it year in there. He's got some incentives and stuff, but he's another guy that, like TR just said, Paul George shows us, Caleb Martin shows us, right? Andre Drummond back. He's hitting all the right buttons so far, man. And the offseason isn't even done. We haven't traded a pick yet.
Yes. They haven't gotten rid of any of their assets, right? Any of that draft capital that people thought they were going to explore this offseason is still here. They still have a couple minimums to give out to fill out this roster. We talk about all the free agent additions. You and I believe he killed the 16th overall pick. We love the Jared McCain addition as well. Daryl Morey's having a great offseason, and it's getting to the point where, well, obviously, can we talk about how great Daryl Morey is? Just on paper, they haven't played a game yet. Where things don't work out. But with the way this is filling out, like now it's almost like it's not Daryl Morey's job anymore. Like Daryl Morey is great because he did a great job. If it doesn't work out, is that on Daryl Morey or is it on your stars? Is it on Paul George? Who's it on? Because at this point, you wouldn't think it's on the roster construction because they're doing a lot of things. Let's talk about Caleb Martin to start, man.
I just wanted to comment on Marshawn's tweet here, or his comment, excuse me, not to tweet. I'm catching up this morning. Don't mind me. I do agree. He chose the money, but Daryl Morey is the one that made the money available to spend. So, that's still another check box, another box checked off for Daryl Morey. In that sense, but it's still fair point.
Also, I saw a tweet before we came on that the Clippers' initial offer was 2 years, $60 million to Paul George.
Yeah, disrespectful.
So, I mean, that's not even anywhere close to the ballpark. So, I mean, at that point, I think it's very obvious, and it's why things happen so clearly and easily once 6 p.m. hit, just over a week ago, because Paul George seemed to have his eyes set here. Daryl Morey had his eyes set on Paul George, and it happened very quickly. But the Caleb Martin edition, man, it's not the flashiest, it's not the sexiest, it's not Paul George, right? And it's really not a guy, like we talk about the rebounding, we talk about having a backup big behind you. Well, it's not the Drummond thing. You bring in a guy in Caleb Martin who improves when things get tough. He improves in bigger situations. His playoff numbers compared to his regular season numbers inflate every year. He's great for some reason against the Boston Celtics. Might be a nice thing to have on your team. 6'5" wing, 6'5" forward, can kind of guard 2 through 4 in a sense in this day and age. Shoots below league average from 3 during the regular season, but like I said, those postseason numbers shoot up above league average. Really good on the defensive end. And what this does now, man, not just what he can bring to this team, another guy that can knock down an open 3 and stuff for you. They're putting wings, true wings between Maxey and Embiid. Yeah. Everyone's so focused on power forward. And I'm not saying they shouldn't address it. I'm not saying they're not going to address it. But everyone's so focused on getting that rebounding power forward, that big man that can play next to Joel and stretch the floor. Well, if you have 6'9", 6'7", 6'5", all 3 of which in Oubre, PG, and Caleb Martin can switch, now you have a different and more athletic and lengthy defense that Nick Nurse can develop and play around with a bit as this season goes on and figure out what he wants to do. So the Caleb Martin addition is a absolute home run.
Yeah.
And it's just another guy. Again, man, like when you just go back and look at last year's roster around Embiid and Maxey, this one is already just blowing it out of the effing water.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, add another wing that's like better than Tobias. Like give you more than what you would get out of Tobias against the Knicks.
I'm so glad you said that.
It's so wild, man. Like to even think about it. Because like you said,
we replaced Tobias with Paul George. Now it's like, you replace Tobias with Caleb Martin, and you have Paul George. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, literally. Because, like, what we talked about going into this offseason was, like, what happens if you don't get Paul George? Like, what are some replacement options? Maybe you don't get the star at the wing position, but you have to, take kind of a consolation prize there and get a star elsewhere at a different position. Caleb Martin was a guy that we discussed. He was a guy that could be an option, obviously not going to be your number one option in that wing department. But you talk about them going out, bringing Paul George in, signing Kelly Oubre back, and then ultimately bringing in Caleb Martin as well. And once again, just to be picked over the Heat, bro. Like, I don't want to, like, undersell that as well. Like, even though the Heat, they might have finished, below us last year, whatever the case may be, they have been more successful than we have in the last few years. They've shown Caleb Martin places that we wouldn't have been able to show him in past seasons, but he still chose to come over to the Philadelphia 76ers organization. And it once again just, it seems like one of these situations where the Sixers organization is starting to kind of blossom in a sense, as far as players wanted to be a part of that and just being like a good organization. Like, there's a lot of bad rumors, right, from the process era and things that were going on with this organization. And obviously the criticism of Josh Harris and the ownership and, Blitzer, the ownership group there, and Daryl Morey coming in and Elton Brand's moves when he first started as a GM. And things just feel like they are really coming together for you to get a guy who, all that talk about Heat culture, right? Like, why wouldn't this guy want to be back there in Miami playing with that team? And he chose the Sixers, man. He decided to come to this team and play with these guys. Maybe it's the roster that they had already put together as well. Maybe he saw his fit there. Maybe there was a guarantee of him being a starter with this group, which, once again, to your point about like the size and like a true power forward, like, I do get it because of like the rebounding concerns, right? But the big thing here is that Kelly Oubre can grab you 5-6 boards, right? If you ask him to. Caleb Martin can go out and grab you 4-5 boards if you need him to. Paul George can go out, grab you 5-6-7 boards if you need him to. They're just going to have to do it together. They're going to have to learn how to play together, be in the right spots. But when you watch a guy like Josh Hart go out there and out-rebound their whole team, that's not because of his size or his bounce. It's because of his will and want to go out there and rebound. And when you look at the Celtics matchup, to your point once again, Al Horford wasn't starting when Kristaps Porzingis was healthy. Kristaps Porzingis was starting at center, and you have Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and Drew Holiday out there. So when you look at the best team in the Eastern Conference and in the league and how you match up with them, I'm taking Embiid over Kristaps Porzingis. Sorry, obviously. And then you match Paul George up with Jason Tatum, so on and so forth. Right. But that power forward position is just not something you're going to worry about in that matchup. So I don't know, man. I'm beyond excited for this team and Caleb Martin. I mean, just a home run signing at this point, like where we're at in the offseason.
And what they've built so far, like this, like it just makes the Caleb Martin signing that much more exciting because, like you said, if Paul George isn't here and they just bring back Kelly Oubre and sign Eric Gordon, Caleb Martin's a nice signing, but Caleb Martin's not anybody that's pushing you over the hump with 11 points per game and 36% or 35% from three-point land consistent. That's just not getting it done. But when you fill in the margins with a guy like Caleb Martin, now things escalate. Now they elevate to another level where it puts you in true contention. And you mentioned him wanting to be here compared to Miami. Possibly. We don't know. Definitely seems like it could have been a market and agent and personal misread of the situation. A la, CGJ from last year with the Eagles.
My only thing is, why wouldn't the Heat, like, if they offered him that already, why wouldn't they just come in and match that offer if he wanted to go back and he brings that to their table?
That's true.
Unless, you know what I mean? It's less.
Unless Pat Riley wants to be a little stubborn and go.
He could be. It could be that though.
That offer is removed now.
And then he goes to a conference rival.
I will say this. We always talk about what these guys bring to the table for us, how they can help us. But again, when you talk about Caleb Martin coming here compared to the Miami Heat roster that they're building over there with an aging Jimmy Butler, a center like Bam Adebayo, can the Sixers roster take Caleb Martin's game to another level? Can he look even better surrounded by Joel Embiid and Maxey and Paul
think he
George and
could, man.
Kelly than he did in Miami next to Jimmy and Bam and all? That's something else. Like Caleb Martin could be even better in a Sixers uniform than he was in a Miami Heat uniform. And I get it.
Like Kelly Oubre.
And it's a way that they lock in together and play defensively. And Spo might be the best coach in the game right now. I get it. Nick Nurse is a damn good coach, and Nick Nurse is a damn good defensive coach. And Nick Nurse loves hustle guys. And you bring in a guy like Caleb Martin who can just thrive in that area. And again, he's not asked to do too much. You go back to Caleb Martin in Miami again, and he played well. I mean, they won. Yeah. They what's the name? Did they win a series? No.
No, they played the Celtics first round. They did win a game against the Celtics without Jimmy, though, which he went off in that game.
You go back to that offense. Tyler Hero's injured, missing time. Jimmy Butler's out. Caleb Martin's asked to do things offensively for this team that he's never in a million years, barring multiple injuries, going to be asked to do in a Sixers uniform.
Yeah.
He was asked to put the ball on the floor a little bit. He was asked to score more. He was asked to shoot higher volume of three-point attempts against the Boston Celtics in the playoffs because of injuries. You surround him with three superstars. He does not need to do that.
Yeah. It was literally Boston first round, game 2. They ended up beating Boston. It had to be in Boston, too, right, in game 2. Yeah. He dropped 21 points on 5 for 6 from the three-point line in that game. Then in game 4, I believe it was, he dropped 18 points on 4 for 8 three-point shooting with 5 rebounds, 2 assists. So, once again, give us one of those games in a series, we beat the Knicks. Give us 2 of those games in a series, we might.
We're talking about Caleb Martin.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's so interesting. This is going to be
the storyline all year long, and this is where I want Sixers to take a deep breath, because I do it too, right? Especially when you have Joel Embiid as your focal point, and a guy like Paul George who's dealt with his fair share of injuries and missing time. Of course, there are going to be injury concerns. And of course, knock on wood, they're probably going to get nicked up. They're going to miss time here and there. And Joel's going to get a lot of rest time as well, as he probably should at this point to keep him healthy for the playoffs. But Sixers fans, take a breath, enjoy this, and just let's take it game by game and not worry about future injuries. If it's December and they're on an 8-game win streak, I don't want to hear people calling into sports talk radio talking about, well, what does this really matter? Because Joel's going to be hurt in 4 months anyway. I can't be worried about that.
Yeah, no, I truly agree with you as well. And I think, I sent this tweet to you that I saw on Twitter the other day. It was about, like, they were comparing the Sixers to the Phoenix Suns, and it's just not the same. Like, Caleb Martin alone makes it, like, not the same. We have quality role players on this roster as well.
Quality role players, and again,
in the fit.
Tell me you don't watch basketball then, because the minute that the Phoenix Suns went out there and gave Bradley Beal a bag, the conversation immediately went to, wow, but what does this look like?
Yeah.
That is not a question
for
the 76ers right now. It's not a question if Paul George can. Well, obviously, we know Maxey and Embiid, the two of those two play together really well, right? I mean, they were the highest scoring duo all year long while they were healthy together. And we know what kind of off-ball catch and shoot 3-point wing Paul George is. So the fit's not a question.
Yeah.
So it's not even close to the same type of conversation, man.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, while Devin Booker obviously the better player, they're both redundant skill sets. They play very similar in a sense. They operate in similar areas on the court, where we're talking about 3 separate position groups right here: a guard, a wing, and a center, right? So, it's just completely different. You look at some of the older teams in the past, the Miami Heats of the world. Once again, not comparing them to that, just a similar build.
Right.
Guard, wing, big man, right? Like, once again, not comparing him to the LeBron Miami Heat with Chris Bosh and D Wade. We don't know that those players are of that caliber, right? We know that they're not, actually, but it still is the fit concept of it and where they're going to operate on the court. And like you said, how they complement each other. And I'm just picturing Joel, like a pick and roll with Maxey. Maxey drives the lane, kicks it out to Paul George. Pump fake, drives the lane, kicks it out to Caleb Martin. Pump fake. You know what I mean? Like, they can just drive the lane, shoot the three. Like, everybody on the court can do that at this point. When we look at our starting lineup right now, you're going to have like Caleb Martin sitting in one corner. You're going to have Kelly Oubre on the opposite wing, Paul George to the right of Maxey at the top of the key. Like, it's going to be ridiculous. Like Darius is talking about in the comments, you're going to have to iron some things out. Obviously, you're going to have to figure out, spots and where each guy's going to get their shots and where at in the game they're going to take them. But I think at the end of the day, we're looking at Paul George, who, is at a part of his career where I feel like he knows like the only thing that matters is winning and trying to get to the top of the NBA and as a team aspect, right? I think Joel's in that same part of his career. And I think Maxey has just always had that mindset where he's going to do what he has to do for the team as well. So I think we're seeing things come together at kind of the right and perfect time as well. And man, I mean, I'm just beyond excited. The presentation for Paul George, by the way, taking Dr. J out there, the presentation for Tyrese Maxey that you had in-house here, just ridiculous and amazing. And like I said, I can't remember if I said this early on in the show, but I am proud of the Sixers organization.
Yeah.
Weird to say that, but I'm very proud of the way they're handling things. And I don't know if that's a Daryl Morey thing. I don't know if that's, Josh Harris, like trying to right the wrongs of the organization, but they're coming together. They're doing it together. Elton Brand out there in LA, all of them. And it's really amazing to see, using Dr. J to your advantage, a Hall of Fame legend that you have on your hands here. Paul George even said it. His dad seeing Dr. J come into Paul George's house was just amazing. Like, leaves you starstruck. Rich Paul in the Tyrese Maxey, in that video the Sixers posted, Rich Paul says, 23 years I've been doing this, and I've never seen a presentation as good as this for Tyrese Maxey. Just speaks to where the organization is headed, what they're trying to do. And I like I said, I couldn't be prouder, I guess, right now. They got to put it on the court. They got to win.
It's almost like Daryl Morey had a chain wrapped around his ankle, limiting him from reaching out and getting to where he wanted to be. And that final chain, that ball and chain, was the Tobias Harris contract. Because for so long, since Daryl Morey got here a few years ago, he was cleaning up previous messes, right? He had to get out of Josh Richardson. He had to get out of the Al Horford contract. He moved on from Danny Green. He traded for DeAnthony Melton. He's made adjustments. He drafted Tyrese Maxey, right? No one talks about that. He drafted Tyrese Maxey in the early 20s a couple years ago. And it's like you just couldn't get to where you wanted to get to. You couldn't be free yet until that agonizing contract was off your books. And it's now gone. And now look at how this team is kind of operating, right? It's not just the moves. It's not just some of the players they brought in. It's like it's everything you've talked about. It's, even the fact that Joel has remained patient through all of this.
That's a great point.
Understanding and being at the Maxey tribute and talking and sending a video and being with them there. Like, it's all those questions we have about, I wouldn't be shocked if Joel Embiid requested trade. I don't get that from him ever. He trolls. I get it. I get annoyed by it. I got annoyed by it last offseason. It wasn't the time to do it immediately after getting shelled in a Game 7 to your rival. He's got to mature a little bit in that sense. But Joel Embiid's not going anywhere, man. Not when Paul George signs here for 4 years. Not when Maxey extends for 5 years. It's not happening. So they're going all in. They're trying to win. And this is what we have. To Gin's point, you do have a hole. And at some point, it could come back to hurt you. We don't know. Styles obviously make fights. But like Scotty said, like, when you go back to what one of our key core issues have been for the last couple of years, specifically last year in the playoffs, rebounding and minutes with Joel off the floor. It wasn't just Isaiah Hartenstein or Mitchell Robinson or Precious Achua, the 7-footers, giving the backups problems.
Yeah.
It was 6'5" Josh Hart running rampant all over the floor, gathering rebounds. It was Dante DiVincenzo hustling. It was this guy. It was Deuce McBride tipping a ball back into play. OG Anunoby hustling, right?
Yeah.
You have guys who are athletic and quick enough and had the 1-2 defensively who can now step into roles like that, right? We talked about it. Caleb Martin, 6'5", Kelly Oubre, 6'7", Paul George is 6'8". We have some Ricky Council people out there. He's one of the guys on the roster right now. He's 6'6".
He's like a wild card.
Right. But my point is the Sixers are undersized argument for Maxey and possibly McCain.
When you add Drummond.
It just isn't right. It just doesn't fit the narrative anymore. So they might need that. They might need a power forward on a minimum. Maybe they can trade for one. I don't know, again, how the money works when you trade and bring on guys.
Something with that KJ Martin extension, right? Inflated extension that makes you eligible to move him for more salary. And then maybe you can include those picks. That's the crazy part, though. Like, yes, we do have the whole, like, maybe you want another point guard. Maybe it's not Kyle Lowry that you really want, even though he can be part of the team. Maybe you do want like a starting caliber point guard or off guard for Tyrese Maxey, whatever the case may be. You have so many resources at your disposal right now that you can go and do that.
By the way, I'm 1,000% fine and kind of on board with bringing Kyle Lowry back. Is it a difference-making move? It could. Here's the thing: we brought in Kyle Lowry at the deadline last year.
Yeah,
we liked it, right? We were positive about it. Okay. The issue is when you have injuries like the Sixers had, where D'Anthony Melton can't really see the floor, and Robert and all this is going on. Kyle Lowry went from a guy that was supposed to come off the bench and give you 12 minutes, maybe 13 minutes here and there, and take a charge, knock down a three, whatever. Kyle Lowry went from that to your starting two guard playing almost 40 minutes a night in the playoffs at this point of his career. That was never the vision.
Burnt him out.
So now you bring Kyle Lowry back again on a very cheap minimum deal. No one's bitching about the money. He can be a leader. He's got a championship. He's got the, rapport with the players, with Nick Nurse already from last year's team.
Yeah.
He comes in and is that point guard for you off the bench. That is completely fine with me right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, just adding some more experience, championship caliber experience. Another guy that, once again, I know we try not to like hone in on like the pandering and like wanting players to, be from the city and like buy in, but it is a real thing. He will want to do it more for his hometown. So I have no problem with bringing guys like that in. If you can get Marcus Morris on a minimum, a veteran minimum contract, another guy that can come in as a forward and space the floor, give you toughness, right? Another guy that doesn't need to be playing like 20 plus minutes a night, nothing like that, but gives you maybe 5 minutes in a playoff game. Comes in, maybe fouls someone hard, hits a three, gets a rebound and a layup, right? Gives you 5 points. Just that ability, having that on your bench, having that experience is going to help. So, yeah, I'm all for Kyle Lowry. And once again, you have your wild cards like McCain, like Darius just said there in the comments as well. What if he comes out and gives you like 2 to 3 threes a game? What if he can come out and just play tough defense for maybe 10 to 12 minutes a night and give you that extra guard in rotation, right? To keep the Kyle Lowrys fresh, to help keep Maxey fresh throughout a season. Yeah, man. And once again, like when we speak about health, I think once again, the Sixers have protected themselves in a sense with Andre Drummond. You bring in the best backup big that has ever played behind Joel Embiid. Now you have those games on back-to-backs where Joel doesn't need to play on a back-to-back against San Antonio Spurs or the Charlotte Hornets. He can sit those games out. I know there's ways in the NBA that they're going to try to make him play those games, but the point is throw him out there for 10, 15 minutes in the first half and then sit him the whole second half if you want, right? He played. Let's get Drummond in there and let him finish out the game. But yeah, man, I think the most exciting thing that we look at right now is that, yes, their cap space is kind of maxed out right now. There's not a lot of avenues they can go outside of veteran minimums, but they have a full plethora of draft picks and ways to make things work via trades. to the point where maybe it doesn't happen this offseason. Maybe it is one of those things you feel out the first part of the season and then go get that missing piece. The other thing, man, and like I've said from the jump, I'm not like interested in trading Jared McCain.
Right.
If he goes out there and lights up the summer league and then, you attach some draft picks along with him, man, maybe you do go and get like a starting level player.
Right.
Not saying that's like the ideal. I'm not saying I want to get rid of Jared McCain. I'm a Duke fan. I would love to see him stay right here in Philly, of course. But these are all avenues that can be explored at the end of the day. And this is just like the plethora that Daryl Morey has been able to put together for this team, man. We're in a really, really good spot where there's a lot of different things we could do that I would be like, God, yeah, man, that works. Like, if you can, extend KJ Martin and package him in a deal and get like a Bobby Portis I've seen listed out there, like to fill that power forward role.
Yeah.
Don't know that the Bucks would do that, right? With us, but just that caliber player is something that I would be beyond excited about.
Is DFS still available now that Caleb
Martin?
Because since the Caleb Martin,
Haywood Highsmith from the Miami Heat. Right. Something simple like that, even, man, I'll be excited about. He can come in and play a role. But that's the thing. All we need is roles now. We don't need, the big third scorer or, the sixth man. We just need guys to fill holes and roles right now. And
that's the new saying, brother. There we go. There we go.
It sounded weird, but it rolled off the tongue smoothly, nonetheless.
I agree, and I know Abe commented earlier about it. What is Gary Trent Jr.'s market? Get out of the comments now. I'm not even pulling it up, you son of a bitch. What is Gary Trent Jr.'s market? Right, he's not getting the high level, high end, mid level exception. I don't know if that, I highly doubt Gary Trent Jr. is taking a vet minimum somewhere, but you never know.
If you could get Gary Trent Jr., would you start him at the shooting guard and maybe move Kelly Oubre to the sixth man?
Absolutely. I think because Gary Trent's still 6'5".
Yeah.
So he's a bigger guard. I would absolutely do that, and Kelly brings that role. Either way, because then it doesn't really matter to me. I think Kelly, we all assume, is better in that role off the bench, but Gary Trent Jr. is also an efficient, fun scorer, right? So
he can come in and give you 12 off the bench.
An energy scorer off the bench as well. But I wanted to go back to TR's comment here about the passing. I know a lot of people are on this since the Nico Batum signing with the Clippers. Listen, it's definitely something when you have a guy like Joel Embiid who you're trying to get the ball to in critical moments, playoff series where they're throwing different looks and double teams. You need an entry pass to get down to Joel to set up the offense. This is where the franchise, right? This is where your 5-year max point guard has to, develop in another area of his game. Because now, listen, I will say this. In the past, even last year, we've talked about how you can't be overly critical of Maxey because he's still so young at this point. This was only his, second real playoff experience, since Doc has when Doc was there, he didn't play him in the beginning, then played him the second to last year, and now so on. Gotcha. There you go. But now that money's involved, now that money's there, that goes out the window because now you're paid like a grown man. I need you to play like a grown man, and that means to continue to develop in all those other areas. That's the Tyrese Maxey,
the role. Yeah, I do agree with that. When you look at Tyrese Maxey, we asked him to go out, become a better shooter. He becomes a better shooter after his first year in the league, right? We wanted him, to space the floor. We wanted him to learn off ball with James Harden, right? He learned off ball with James Harden, learned how to play as a kind of a shooting guard in that sense. Right. Last year, we wanted him to come in and, be more of that playmaker, but still keep his attack on full blast. He was able to do that, increased up to 6.2 assists per game last season. What else can he get better at, right? Obviously, there's certain aspects like drawing fouls and different ways that impact scoring, but I think the obvious things that he knows he's going to have to work on.
Controlling and setting up the offense.
Exactly. Running an offense and then defensive side of things, right? Being in the right places, getting in passing lanes. But the main thing being getting your big fella going, setting up the offense, and being able to get your guys the ball in spots, but also still, once again, keeping your attack
and
at full blast, right? Staying aggressive for yourself as well. I think Darius said that in the comments. Having respect for himself.
I'll address it one last time, Mr. Matthew McGinty. Darius, I want you to read that fourth to last word in your sentence. Not team, not this, not with, but that word before that. Thoughts. The thoughts. The idea of that gentleman is always a fun and great thought and idea on the basketball floor. He doesn't play.
Yeah.
So please.
Yeah.
We used to be on the same team, brother. We used to be the last two defending the man on planet Earth and in this city specifically. He doesn't like the game of basketball. He simply doesn't play. He's played less than 60 or 55 games since he left the Sixers. Since he left.
Had back problems. Can he even move laterally? Like, can he even move at his size? And not having played steady basketball the last few years. Like, the thing about Ben Simmons was his athleticism, his ability to defend, rebound, and be everywhere on the court, make the passes, right? Get out on the fast break. It's such like a big stature.
Right.
Can he even do that anymore? I don't know. Like, how old is he? He's not 30, right?
Ben was drafted in 2016. He was 18 or 19 at the time. So 8 years. 26, 27? Yeah.
27.
Like
yep. 27. So yeah, no. No, I'm not even trying to talk myself into it.
No.
Which is fair as well. Like, Marcus Morris isn't the most athletic. He can shoot the three though, right? He improved as a 3-point shooter. The idea of Marcus, he just isn't good.
Yeah, I'm
good in a minimal role
Marcus, though. I don't care. Marcus Morris doesn't really push any needle for me. I think Marcus Morris can shoot the three ball still. But when we're
Marcus
talking
Morris is like,
and rebound wise,
if Paul George needs to miss a game, Marcus Morris can step in and give you 5 to 8 minutes behind Kelly Oubre and Caleb Martin, right? Like that's kind of how I'm thinking of Marcus Morris, but
I just can't.
I don't know. Like, think about Ben Simmons and like, am I taking off like Kelly Oubre who can shoot the three and drive into the lane? Am I taking off Caleb Martin that could shoot the three and drive into the lane? Am I taking off? No, Paul George. Fuck no. Right. So like, these are the things you have to think about. It's like, it sounds like a great idea, but until he like is wide open and doesn't shoot again. And then everybody starts bitching and complaining in the crowd.
We already talk and worry about injury concerns with Joel and Paul George, and then we're going to bring in a dude that plays like 20 games a year possibly. Like, I'm not worrying about it. So
I think there's
negatory over here, man.
Plenty of better options out there.
Either way, Paul George is a 76er. Caleb Martin's a 76er. Andre Drummond's a 76er. Eric Gordon's a 76er. And life is good right now, man. And we'll see where they continue to further and build this roster. I think Lowry's almost a no-brainer coming back at this point. Again, I'm fine with Kyle Lowry coming back. Would I like Tyus Jones? Yeah. Tyus Jones ain't taking a vet minimum, brother. And apparently Tyus Jones wants to start. So he's probably going to go back to Washington or some bum team there. And whatever. But Gary Trent Jr. would love Gary Trent Jr. Probably not taking a vet minimum. And then when you get down to the power forwards, I'm really not even sure besides Marcus Morris who is realistic or available at that price point anyway. So
maybe Haywood Highsmith, like that's the reason I say him, but he probably is going to have suitors out there, man.
Can I say something?
With that length
and I like, he's played well for the Heat the last couple of seasons. I just like when we say the name Haywood Highsmith, it doesn't do anything for it. Like I know he's better than Marcus Morris. I know that. It's just like really like how I'm supposed to get excited over Haywood Highsmith.
I do feel you.
For Haywood Highsmith.
I do feel you. He gives me like Okay, well, fair. He gives me like Robert Covington vibes in a sense, like the length,
All right.
athleticism. Robert Covington's a little bit taller, I do believe, but it's not gonna be one of those moves where I'm like, oh, this is it. Like, yeah,
Right.
like
Right.
start Haywood. It's not like that. It's more one of those moves where if you were able to sign him for like a vet minimum or something like that,
Right.
maybe he could surprise you. Right. Like that's kind of where I'm at. But I feel you. It's not like a needle mover
Vince,
like a
brother, what do you think about
DFS.
just bringing the man back himself? What do you think about just bringing back Robert Covington
Depending
himself?
on what his health, is like, I'd probably take him over Marcus Morris, right? Like from a
Probably.
defensive standpoint, like he's going to be a little bit better there. And then the 3-point
Except
shot, I think he's
he
pretty
got
decent
traded here,
3-point
played
shooter.
20 minutes, and then
Yeah.
wouldn't matter.
Be
But,
interesting, man. They got options though.
yeah.
They have options, so it'll be
So,
interesting to see where they finish.
yeah.
Is there a Kelly Oubre out there anywhere from last offseason? Is there a Kelly Oubre type of guy out there that's going to wait until the last minute, maybe not get the offer that he wants, and then take a prove it deal? That'll be interesting to see as well, because the Sixers are a prime team for that type of situation.
Maybe there's a guy out there willing to take a pay cut like LeBron did for the Lakers.
Maybe. Dr. J, though. Hey, at least if you bring Dr. J on the squad, you're gonna like bring in, some players that are just fanboying over him. So I'm not against it.
I forgot Darius is a Lakers fan, by the way. I wasn't even taking a shot at Darius. It was just LeBron. LeBron took a pay cut, brought in nobody, and then signed for like $700,000 less than he was going to originally.
Pay cut.
I'm dead serious. I'm pretty sure he could have signed for the opt-in would have put him at like 104 or whatever, and instead he signed for like 103.3 or something like that. So
what a team guy, man.
Yeah, and then they drafted his son, and they brought in the head coach that he did a podcast with. Which again, I'm not anti JJ as his coach. I'm just saying that
it's interesting.
That organization is ran pretty funny. Sadiq Bey, I'm in on. Sadiq Bey, I'm fine with.
Yeah. Finally tap into that Villanova.
Yeah, there you go. Kyle Lowry. Hey, now we have two. We're fighting with the Knicks for most Nova guys in a little bit.
Yeah.
So
we'd step up there a little bit. You think Kyle Lowry or campaign? Like, which one would you prefer?
Well, he doesn't go by campaign anymore. What's he go by?
Like Terry something?
Terry Johnson.
Terry Johnson.
I don't know, man. Because campaign, it was Cam time a little bit in the postseason as well. Obviously younger, a little more explosive offensively, can shoot the free ball. I'm kind of indifferent on either one.
He was a little random though, right? Like not as consistent as maybe a Lowry that
I'll put it this way.
Comes in, get a rebound, play hard.
I think Nick Nurse knows how to use Kyle Lowry right now this second. I don't know that he knows how to use campaign right now. He would have to figure out campaign's role and everything like that. Whereas Kyle, I think he knows where to plug and play Kyle immediately. So
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Summer League tonight, man. Yeah, as long as I can get it up here. I never know with the channels. But hopefully we'll see if I can watch Jared McCain blossom in his debut. Last little Sixers thing, man. Scotty, you and I, we hinted at it in the beginning of the show. Hint. We talked about it before we went live here. The Sixers, obviously, with the little tease of bringing back the classic black jerseys during the AI era. No, sir. Just stop in the Poconos. Come home this weekend, and then no more vacations for your boy this summer unless we do something random on a weekend. But yeah, no, just up the Poconos with a stiff neck. That's all I got for you right now.
Oh, that's the worst, man.
Yeah,
that is the worst. I saw you moving your neck. I was wondering, you stretching out there, man. That's the worst.
It's rough. But anyway, teasing at the Maxey tribute of bringing it, gifted him obviously his own jersey in this style. And then people did some detective work and zoomed in on the background of where they had the portraits of the Maxey like crossover magazine and the AI crossover. and it was Maxey in that jersey was the photo, and very small print to the left. I think it said like Philly asked, we delivered, or something like that along those lines. So it seems like these are making their comeback in 2025. It's an absolute must at this point. It needs to just be the alternate all the time. And the Sixers would be absolute fools not to, because you're just going to capitalize on it like crazy, if you know what I mean. Like I said before, it's not Kelly Green and the Eagles. It's not the same extent. It's not the history there. But it'll sell out like that.
Yeah, literally.
Do
they go all in with it, or do they just go black jersey alternate city edition like that route?
I think that would be it. I think it would just be the classic alternate kind of uni. But it would be interesting. Yeah, I know Ginn loves that. That what's he got? That Kyle Korver baby blue.
It's also like I hope that they bring the material back as well.
I know.
Just because that shininess of the jersey makes it next level, honestly. But I understand that might not be the best like ventilation. Like I don't know if you have had one of those like different material type of those
I like the white a lot. Every uniform
I did too.
Color I like a lot. I like the white road. Like I just,
that's what I was saying. Like, do they just go with the classic Sixers logo? Like, even, but I don't think they're going to take it that far, too.
No, I mean, at that point, you would just have to rebrand and go back to it. But
yeah, exactly. But I agree, man. There's like 3 jerseys I could say that I could quite possibly need, because the Paul George number 8, he already said is like a tribute to Kobe. Yeah. That is like something I would really, really love to buy. It's probably 3rd on my list of jerseys I want right now. Maxey in the black, like that old school black jersey, I need that. Like TR said, I need that one. And Joel Embiid's USA jersey, bro. Like I need that jersey as well, because to watch him go out on the biggest stage, I know there's a lot of haters out there on Joel Embiid.
Nice segue, brother.
But I'm very happy to see my man out there with LeBron and Steph Curry and the GOATs of the sport out there having fun, man, and about to represent our country to the fullest and win himself some gold. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to get the Embiid USA jersey to represent my man that's out there repping Philadelphia, man. Maxey didn't get selected for whatever fucking reason. Well, Joel Embiid is out there representing not only America, but the Philadelphia 76ers, and I'm definitely going to be supporting him in that aspect as well, man.
Nice segue, bro, because there's a lot of pushback and hate on social media from outsiders. It has nothing to do, finally, with Philadelphia fans. It's nothing that I have beef with anybody there inside our hometown. But there are a lot of, we know this, there are a lot of Joel Embiid haters, period.
Yeah.
And just absolute, what's the word I want to use for these people? Idiots. We'll put that politely.
Yeah.
Absolute idiots who watch him play and think he's a dirty player, or he's a foul baiter, he's a free throw merchant, he's this, he's that. They already hate him, so they're just pushing this agenda further. So if you live under a rock and you do not know, Joel Embiid is from where? Cameroon,
yes,
right?
Sir.
He also has French citizenship. I'm
always
lost in that because I don't think he's lived a day in France. Like
it is weird.
I don't know why he has citizenship in France, but it's not here nor there. He has French citizenship, and obviously he's lived in the United States of America, I think, since he's like 13.
In high school.
Yeah, 14 years old.
Yeah.
Went to college here, met his wife here, had a kid here.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. So he has citizenship basically in 3 places. He's from Cameroon. So that's the part that I want to wipe out. If we're going to have a debate or an argument of where Joel Embiid should have played, first of all, it's his decision, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, if you want to have that debate, let's wipe France right off the fucking map. And wasn't it like an ambassador or the president of France? Did he come out and say some nonsense about being disgusted by Joel Embiid? Dog, he's never lived a day in your country. Let's wipe France right off the map and discussion board. Okay, it would be Cameroon because that's where he's from. That's his nationality, or it's where he lives in the United States of America. Yeah, I'm never welcome, and I don't want to go to that disgusting city. No, Um, excuse me. Yeah, so that's the discussion. USA, Cameroon. If he goes to Cameroon, they have no chance, Scotty. They're not going to win. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
this is why he made this decision or how he came
Yeah.
to this decision, but they have no chance. And do you know what these same people that are hating on him already for would say if he went to Cameroon and they got bounced there early like Luka did? He's a loser. He can't
Yep.
even get him past this on the world stage. Da, 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 da,
Yep.
da. Instead, he goes to play for USA. Well, he's not from here. He's ring chasing because he can't win in the NBA. And it's just, it's never enough. And the funniest part is these are Americans.
That's exactly
That's
exactly what I was going to say.
Be happy that one of the best players in the world wants to play for this team after the disastrous performance of the last, 4 to 8 years have been of United States men's basketball. Let's be happy that he's part of this group that's playing and, knock on wood, should cruise their way to fucking gold. Okay?
And the other side of it, man, like, do you want him to play for France? Like, you want to go against Joel Embiid in the Olympics? Like, with France, with Victor Wembanyama, and potentially make them a great team in the Olympics, right? Like, Americans would rather see that.
Right.
Like, that's weird. And at the end of the day, like, Joel Embiid, even if it's as simple as just wanting to play for his son who is American, that's simple enough is a reason. If he just wants to represent the country he spent most of his life.
Right? How about that? Like, outside of an all-star game, he gets to play with the greatest players in the world. Maybe he just wanted to go
in
do
a
that.
serious competition. Right. Like, it is just weird.
This was the highlight tweet that I've seen. All of it.
Yeah.
Of Jose Alvarado winning a
that
game.
One disgusted me, man. Like,
brother. Like, Jose Alvarado had a choice.
He has a choice?
Where to play, USA or his home country, and he went there to deliver something for them and win for them. Jose Alvarado couldn't slip through Holiday's jock to get on Team USA, brother.
Like, anyone who has an option to make Team USA is going to exercise that option. Let's be realistic here. Like, that was just the dumbest thing I've ever heard, man. Like, as if Jose Alvarado has an option.
It's just crazy, man. Because as a Sixers fan, the dude gets enough hate on a daily and yearly basis as is. And then to throw this out there as well and make this a big deal is absolutely crazy. Yeah, like
that's the crazy part. Yeah.
Like, right? So these people, man, Scotty, they honestly need their brains scanned or something.
Let them hate while they can, man.
Yeah,
with the best team he's ever played with.
Those thinkers aren't fully developed for a lot of people, it seems like. But all right, let's move on here. So let's answer this question before we get into some Phillies and baseball talk to kind of wrap up in a little bit. Is this what Daryl Morey and the Sixers have put together thus far? They're still not done. They still have roster spots and minimums available, still have a lot of tradable assets. Is this the best Sixers offseason ever, of our lifetime, of the last 30 to 40 years? Like, where is it? Where is it slotted in Sixers offseason? They haven't played a game. It's not even mid-July yet. They're still months away from getting – they're still 2 months away from getting to training camp and preseason. Where does this offseason rank in Sixers history?
Man, I honestly – I won't speak for, like, before my time. Like, I can't speak for that. Like, I don't know exactly what happened in each of those off seasons.
Right.
The Charles Barkley day, like all of that, right? But in our time, like our era, maybe you want to say 2000 and on, right? I was like 7 years old in 2000, right. So take that for what it's worth. This has to be. I don't remember a time where they have even signed a player the caliber of Paul George, let alone everything else that they've been able to accomplish this offseason. Even something as simple as retaining your all-star in Tyrese Maxey, right? Like, we had to watch, Jimmy walk out the door. like one off season, right? In an off season where we also maxed out Tobias Harris. Like we had to experience that.
Yeah.
And to that point, man, just even getting Maxey back, bringing in Paul George, those alone might make this offseason the best ever. But then you add in the Caleb Martins. You bring in an excellent shooter, Eric Gordon. Right. Andre Drummond, the obvious backup big for Joel Embiid. And you start to add these things up and drafting Jared McCain with the 16th pick in the draft, right? I think easily, man. I think easily our best offseason. I'll just say ever for me. Best offseason ever for me. Yeah. And I hope you can say the same, but yeah, nothing takes me back. Like everything during the Iverson era was like we wanted them to bring in guys to play with Iverson. We wanted them to take that team to the next level, but it just didn't really happen. Yeah. If anything, we moved Iverson, right? Like, so yeah, man, I think when you look back on things, is this like one of the shining moments of the Sixers franchise right now, right? Obviously, this season will be the telling point in how they play and the season after that, so on and so forth. During this time with PG, Maxey, Embiid core, that will end up telling the story. But as of right now, when we just look at this offseason for what it is, I don't know if it's close, man.
I agree. And I think just the way it was set up, right? Like, again, we talked about it from the day Paul George signed here last week.
Yeah.
This was a plan. This offseason was a vision that they set out on over a year ago to date, and it came through. They followed through with it and got the job done at the end of the day. We've had exciting moments in our past, right? And again, nothing lived up to it, but we traded for Jimmy Butler. That's a trade. We traded for James Harden. That's a trade. When they went and won the championship back in '83, bringing in Moses Malone as that missing piece was a trade. Correct?
Yeah.
Am I missing that? I'm correct there, right?
I'm pretty sure.
Could be wrong, but want to fact check me. Thought it was a trade. So if it was, like, I think, this is the biggest free agent to ever walk through the Sixers doors.
Yeah, he was traded to the Sixers from Houston. Okay. Houston matched an offer and agreed to trade Moses Malone to the 76ers for Jones and their first round pick in 1983.
Okay.
So yeah, a trade.
Okay. So Paul George, first and foremost, is the biggest free agent to ever accept an offer from the 76ers.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. Then, like you said, when you put everything around it together, when you start to put the pieces of the puzzle together, and they're almost finished now for this offseason, it's just like they answered so many questions. And I want to go back to this Martian, or to this TR point as well. Though they went from 3 players, essentially 2, right? We're including Ricky Council IV in this conversation because he's technically on the roster, but we don't know what Ricky Council's role is on this team, if he's even going to have one. So you had your cornerstones in Embiid and Maxey. You had a blank canvas for the rest of it. You brought in the biggest name on the market, which is the biggest name to ever walk through your doors as a free agent. And then you just filled everything out with just things we haven't had in the past, things Joel Embiid hasn't had as a teammate, needs for this team in shooting, needs for this team in rebounding. Literally the first free agent signing, again, it's not the biggest name, but it addressed possibly their biggest flaw last year, the glass. And that was Andre Drummond. 2 years, 5 per, with a team option the second year. That's we haven't even talked about value. Everyone was up in arms before the Paul George signing. Even after it, there were people that disliked the 4th year and giving Paul George a max at age 34. Every other signing has been an absolute steal. So if you want to overpay for the star, that's fine. It happens all the time in sports. But when you bring Kelly Oubre Jr. back for basically $8 million a year, while this man gets $26 million from another team, it's a steal. You bring Caleb Martin in for $8 million a year. You bring Eric Gordon in on a minimum. You bring Andre Drummond in on $5 a year. You're stealing these other players at this point to, I guess, counter or balance out the quote unquote overpay some people think hitting the star and Paul George was. You have 3 stars now. You have a flexibility at the wing position. You added shooting. You added a 7-foot backup center that's one of the best rebounders in NBA history. It's a slam dunk of an offseason so far.
And they're multi-year deals. So it's not like, we don't win next season, we're going to lose Caleb Martin because he's going to prove more value than what we were able to
4
offer.
years for him.
It's not like that.
2 for Drummond, 2 for Kelly, 4 for George, 5 extension for Maxey. We know Joel's here. Now everybody's locked up. So I agree, man. The only guy on a 1-year deal right now is Eric Gordon, and we'll see what he looks like.
You kind of have your core. Maybe they alter it just a tiny bit, right? With a trade in season, whatever the case may be. Maybe they don't. You might have your core here for the next 3 years at least, right? So I think that's the other side of it. It's not just buy all in for this one season. Right. We do have 2 or 3 seasons basically to get this thing done. Obviously, we're going to want it up front, right? We want it as soon as possible.
Isn't it? It's very Eagles-esque and Howie Roseman-esque, right?
It is. It is.
Remember when Jerry Jones made that comment about the Eagles going all in in an offseason for a championship, but we're building for the future?
Yeah.
Well, just about every major piece the Eagles could ask for on a championship team is locked up for for multiple years, is a rookie that's going to be here for 3 or 4 years at the minimum. So it's very Eagles-esque.
This is this offseason for the Sixers very Howie Roseman-esque. It's
very alien to us Sixers. I'm not
again. Howie Roseman goes out, gets Saquon for top dollar, and then fill in the blanks, right? With guys like CGJ and so on and so forth, man. It is impressive. It changed my view on Daryl Morey completely. I was never anti Daryl Morey. I was just questionable. I didn't know for sure, right? Like, he made some good moves. He wasn't able to move the Tobias contract. I think that was the biggest detractor. But I mean, this right here, I'm all for it, man. I'm in on Daryl Morey right now. So
I agree, bro. But look, man, we're about to move on to the Phillies to wrap up. I know we added in some Olympic talk a little bit, but like this is the epitome. This is the definition of what this Sixers offseason is. We're an hour and 2 minutes in, and all we did was talk about the Sixers.
Positives.
Right. Correct. So it's looking on the up and up for them, for the Sixers and for us, man. But
pause, Marshawn.
Oh, you better relax, brother.
Oh, man.
I'm sure he's trolling.
I know.
I hope so. Or we're gonna have to.
You can't fuel the other trolls, though. Don't fuel the other ones.
Yeah, don't fuel people in the comments, man. But before we get into our Philly segment here on the show, there is 70 of you locked in here right now. Sir. But with that said, guys, if you're watching on Twitter, which most of you seem to be doing, obviously we appreciate you. Thank you. How's it going? But do us a favor. Make sure to check out the YouTube link specifically. Subscribe to the channel. We said it last week. We'll continue to say it, especially, Scotty, with these making a comeback.
Oh, man.
Maybe they get released in a couple months. If you guys get us to 200 subscribers or above by the end of the summer, we're going to do a major, major giveaway here from Dsm Media to you guys for helping us out. It's also the best spot to get your comments up on the screen, as you can see, because for some reason we can't see them on Twitter. So head on over. The YouTube link is in our bio in the link tree. Hit that subscribe button, comment every show. And we appreciate each and every one of you. But let's talk some Phillies here before we wrap up, man. Fair. First and foremost, congratulations to the 7 All-Stars that are representing the Phillies on the National League this year.
Incredible.
3 starters include Bryce Harper, Alec Boehm, and Trey Turner. And then you have some reserves, 2 starting pitchers, I should say, in Zach Wheeler and Ranger Suarez, and 2 bullpen arms in Matt Strahm and Jeff Hoffman.
How about that?
Hoffman has been, man, since throwing batting practice to a returning Bryce Harper last year, coming back from Tommy John, gets a spot on the roster, and now might be this team's best option at closer for the time being as we head towards the trade deadline at the end of the month. But congratulations to those guys. And it just makes, like, the MLB All-Star Game is always one of the better ones to watch. It makes things a little bit interesting.
Bohm in the home run
have
derby.
these guys represent Alec Bohm in the home run derby. Kind of odd, right? Because what do we always talk about with Bohm? The power. Can he get the ball out of the
double
ball
machine?
And now he's in the home run derby. So we'll see what it's
We're
like.
We're gonna find out.
It'll be fun. I wonder what that over/under number is going to be set to on DraftKings and FanDuel and everywhere for his first round dingers. We'll have to keep an eye on that and maybe throw a little bit of the DSM money on there for me and Scotty. But yeah, so that's that. They made the All-Star Game. Great. We have 2 series coming up. Until then, it's the Dodgers visiting town starting tomorrow. Is it the A's after that, I want to say? And then it's the All-Star break. Good news.
Yeah.
Good news seems to be coming. Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper seem to be running the bases at 100% and could be set to return tomorrow. I know 2 days ago, I believe it was said that Schwarber was a little closer, but then Harper, I don't know. Hopefully they're both returning. Getting one of them back even is going to be a huge deal, and the next one to follow in a couple days, couple games later possibly, is humongous news for this team, which brings me to what happened over the weekend. Yes, your Philadelphia Phillies lost 2 out of 3 in Atlanta to their rival, the Braves. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Braves in the first series of the season. I get it. It stinks. They win game 1. Aaron Nola was disgusting on Friday night, and it set things up to look like the Phillies had a chance to win this series shorthanded versus that team and embarrass the Braves. And yes, I know the first game was on Apple TV and the second one was on Fox and the broadcast was atrocious. I understand all of it. They lose the series, but
deep breath, guys.
It doesn't matter. Few things here, people. Few things. They're lucky they didn't get swept. They win the first game. They entered the series up 8 games, I believe. Maybe it was 9. I forget. But anyway, when Harper and Schwarber went down, the Phillies were 8 games up on the Atlanta Braves. They're set to make their returns here shortly. And guess what? The Phillies are still up on the Atlanta Braves, buddy. 8 games. That's the bottom line. Ranger Suarez has not been good his last 3 starts. We know that the Phillies have lost 2 starters in Taijuan Walker and Spencer Turnbull, so they're down a starter. JT's not returning for a little bit. This team is so goddamn beat up, and they did all that we asked when Bryce and Schwarber went down, and that was what? Can they stay afloat? 8 games up, still 8 games up. Guys, they played the Atlanta Braves yesterday afternoon. Like I said, with no Bryce, with no Schwarbs, with no JT, which means the back end of your lineup looks like any combination of Christian Pache or Johan Rojas with Rafael Marchand or Garrett Stubbs, Whit Merrifield, and Munoz. 5 through 9 looks like a dumpster fire. Brandon Marsh is having to hit cleanup. Bryson Stott's struggling. He's your leadoff hitter right now. That's the lineup they went into this series with and yesterday with Michael freaking Mercado making his second major league start against an Atlanta Braves offense that, yes, is missing Ronald Acuna Jr., but still has a lot of dangerous guys in that lineup, no matter how inconsistent they've been this year. And people, were actually bothered that they lost yesterday. I don't know what you guys expected that outcome to be.
Especially in a situation where the Braves do have a lot of ground to make up. They're in Atlanta.
They're the desperate team.
I don't want to say they're supposed to win.
Oh, you could say it.
But you're kind of supposed to win. I think it is just as simple as, we do hate Braves fans. We hate Atlanta, especially in the baseball and the MLB world, right? And I think it's just the disgust from having to lose a series to them. But outside of that, just throw it away, man. At the end of the day, like you said, there's still the same amount of games back. They're in the same spot when it comes to the division, and that's really, really all that matters, right? You are compete with the Dodgers. Guess what? You do get the Dodgers coming into town now. We'll see. But once again, temper the expectations even there, right? If you don't get Kyle Schwarber, which I did want to ask you, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, Are you in a rush to bring them back before the
No.
All-Star? Like, how do you feel about
No.
that either way?
I think the only way they're coming back tomorrow, should come back, or even not tomorrow, just some point this
Maybe
week,
the next day or so on and
as
so forth.
long as they and the training staff say they are good to go, they are
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
There's really no, I mean, obviously there's a risk of re-injury or injury at any time, but this
Yeah.
has nothing to do with that. You bring them back
And then
at that point.
the other thing I wanted to ask you about, because Ranger Suarez, interesting, right? Hasn't had the greatest starts the last few. His next start would come against the A's.
Right.
I know you have, Taijuan Walker on the injured list. I don't know what his situation is. If you could activate him for just one game to take Ranger's spot, something like that. Like, to give Ranger a break before the All-Star break as well. I don't know how you feel about that, because I know that's kind of iffy with pitchers, rhythm, that type of thing. Sometimes you just got to dig yourself out.
I think the opponent's an interesting, an interesting spot here too, because that playing the A's. Listen, I'm not taking any lineup or team for granted, but playing the A's could be a momentum block, a momentum builder for Ranger heading into the All-Star break.
That's fair. That's
maybe
fair.
Maybe goes out and gives you 6 to 7 strong innings versus a lesser talented team.
Get him back in his rhythm, in his zone. Right. Yeah. That's the other side of the combo.
Right. So,
it's all about how they feel, though, man.
We're riding high on the Sixers off season. We got a few weeks to go till the Eagles head to camp. A lot of high expectations and fun things to get into there. Yeah. But the Phillies are just in cruise control right now. It's the weird part of the summer. They're injured. They're beat up. It's extremely hot outside. People are getting irritable. You just have to take that deep breath and just understand what's happening in front of your own 2 eyeballs and say, it's okay. They didn't lose any ground with these injuries. They're getting the cavalry's returning. Like, they're fine.
The best way I guess I could advise, I'm not going to tell people how to feel, but the best I could advise is, if you take yourself back to before the season started and you told yourself by All-Star break, whatever, right, middle of July or second week of July, whatever you want to call it, that the Phillies would be leading the NL, leading the MLB, leading the division, and be in first place, even if it is 3.5 games, right, for the NL. I don't know where they're at overall here. I haven't looked at that yet.
They're still first overall, I believe.
Yeah, still first overall too. If you were told that at the beginning of the season that they would be at that spot right now, would you take it? And you absolutely would. You would take it by a mile.
And run with it.
Yeah.
Also, the rumor mill, the steam, the smoke is starting to pick up a little bit as we approach that July 30th trade deadline. And there's been a lot of reports, a lot of tweets the last couple of days talking about the Phillies being incredibly active. They want to figure out center field. They want to figure out their outfield. Now Cody Bellinger's name's being thrown into the mix, along with Luis Robert and Jazz Chisholm as well from the Marlins. I'll take any one of those guys. I'll tell you that first and foremost. But I would go Cody, Robert, then Chisholm in that order. And a tweet came out last night from a pretty strong MLB account and said that some execs, some GMs around the league, the belief is that a blockbuster move from the Phillies is picking up steam and coming shortly. So more cavalry is coming, man, and this team is going to be A-okay, okay?
And that's the exact boost that can kind of just boost you through the second half of the season, right? Or the after All-Star break of the season. A big move like that is what could boost you right through the rest of this year, man. So, yeah, it's funny, man. It's funny where Philadelphia sports as a whole are right now. If you're complaining, you're just weird, quite honestly, because we are in a great spot as a sports city. Even with the Flyers, I know, I saw Darius's comment earlier in the show about the Flyers getting back on the wagon and kind of bringing Mitch Koff over from Russia is enough to get Flyers fans back in the building and rooting for a team, a jersey to buy, right? To get reinvested in this team. And there's some excitement there too, right? So, yeah.
And look, and to your Flyers point, Mitch Cobb coming over already. I mean, it's just a year went by from last year's draft. we were concerned with everything going on, and the way the KHL was and his contract there, that he might not be coming over for a couple years. And one short year later, he's coming here. He seems to be very bought in and happy to be a Flyer. And the most important thing is we talked about a vision. We talk about a plan that Daryl Morey and the Sixers laid out and followed through with from last all season to this one. And that's what Danny Briere and Jonesy are doing with the Flyers.
Yeah.
This year, look, if Michkov comes in and takes this city by storm, and, they almost somehow made the playoffs last year. So with him, maybe they find their way in the final wild card spot. If you want that, I don't even know. The bottom line is what this last draft told us, some of the trades, some of the moves they made, it's 2025. 2025 is when they are going to try to get this train moving. And it's a plan. At least there's direction when it comes to that team, because there wasn't for so long. We're kind of a playoff team. We're kind of not. We're kind of buyers. We're kind of sellers. There's no true direction. They're firing coaches. They're trading, not cornerstone at this point, but legends like Giroux.
Yeah.
And they don't really know where they're going. Now they bring in new management. They bring in a new GM, and they're kind of figuring things out. So like you said, it's a positive time to be a fan.
The city's hungry for some good hocky, man. The city's hungry for that for sure.
The biggest thing with the other three is
championships.
There is a hope, a belief, a chance that the three of these teams are competing right now today. You have the best record in baseball with the Phillies. I have Super Bowl aspirations for the Eagles in this roster, which we're going to be gearing up and talking about a lot shortly, man. I mean, Jesus, what's today? Is today the 8th or the 9th? The 8th, I believe.
8th,
today's Monday, July 8th. When do we report to camp? Mid-20s, right? It's probably like July 24th, 25th, somewhere around there. So it's coming, brother. We're about 2.5 weeks away from Eagles training camp and having something to talk about each and every day.
I need the Phillies to win the World Series, man. I need them to just break the championship ice early and just open the doors for us. Take the pressure off the city. There's still going to be pressure there. Don't get it twisted. The Eagles are always under pressure. The Sixers will forever be under pressure until they get at least to the Eastern Conference Finals. But at least, take the edge off in a sense. Because if the Phillies strike out, then it's you don't want to get hesitant here. Let's break the ice early and get the chip. But like you said, man, it is a great, great time. And I don't know. I'm hopeful for multiple championships over the next few years across different sports, man. But don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm gonna take it game by game, day by day, and it should be a fun ride. That's the other side of things. That's the other bright spot here.
It's given us something to really root for. Because we talk about all the time in the content creation space and what we're going to talk about, and just how, complaining and it has been is the cool thing to do right now. Right. And argument, that's what draws views and the clips and everything. When things are going bad, we have things to complain about. It brings out the rage in us. It brings out the anger and it's a little bit more emotional. But this is just such an exciting time for me, because when those things are going on, you're going to have your episode here, your episode there of, the Phillies blowing a game 7 at home, the Eagles starting 10-0 and then or 10-1 and losing however many straight, the playoff game, the Sixers collapse, the injuries, everything. But then I find myself in a rut, because I get that anger eventually turns to sadness with how big of our fandom is. And you get into a rut when it comes to doing this, I'm pushing the positivity train. We're pushing the positivity train, because what the Sixers are doing, what the Phillies are doing, what I think the Eagles are going to do, that roster, I can't wait to talk about it. I keep saying it. It makes you want to get on here every single day and talk about it. So forget complaining, forget Negadelphia, forget that's the cool thing to do. It's funny. It's this, it's that. Fuck that. And it's going to be a glorious time for Philly sports coming up right now and through the 2024 season, man, and into 2025.
The jerseys alone, they're gonna have us out here looking fly, man.
These might be coming back. Everything is on the up for this city right now, man. The Phillies wear their powder blues every Thursday.
Just about to say that. They kind of started the trend in a sense, right?
So
Bringing
yeah,
the old
man,
school
it's a
beauties
great
back.
time. With that said, an hour and 20 minutes in, over 70 of you guys watching right now, probably a majority on the Twitter channel. Again, last thing, do us a favor. Head on over to the YouTube channel specifically. Please hit that subscribe button. Get us to 200. You get us to 200 by the end of the summer. Hopefully, we're way beyond 200, but that's the lowest bar we're setting is 200 subscribers here on the new channel. We're less than a year in on the new channel, and we'll be doing a giveaway, possibly for all 3 or 4 teams that you guys want to get into. But subscribe, comment. Have a great rest of your Monday, and we'll be back Wednesday morning live here on the Phaithful Phanatics show, and probably tomorrow night with a Mr. Brock Landis talking Sixers hoops, more offseason additions, Paul George, Caleb Martin, all that good stuff with our man Brock. We'll be doing more stuff with him in the near future as well. So subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to see that. Have a great rest of your day.
Peace.